Alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So, where we last left off in the Mutn of Shujaa, we talked about the different nisab. So we talked about the nisab for all the livestock, and then where we last left off in this class, just 2 days ago, was the nisab for currency, like dhahab wal fidda. And so we talked about these two, and then it's 2.5% from whatever is over that nisab. And of course, for currency that we use, then that currency, like if we have like fiat currency, then we would transfer it into its worth in gold, and then we'd look at that and make the decision about the nisab, and then take it off of if it went over the nisab, that would be in gold, as opposed to silver. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And so the next thing that he's going to go into the next nisab, because we didn't finish all of the nisab, and we'll get into the last two, and then we'll also go into zakat al-fitr. Inshallah, today we'll finish the kitab. And so the next one he says, Abu Shujaa, rahimahullah, he says, Faslun, wa nisabu az-zururi wa thimari khamsatu awsuq. And so he says here in the nisab for the zurur, we talked about zurur it would be like crops, and these are the crops that are stored and whatnot. And then also for a thimar, and thimar is for he said only two. So that's grapes and dates. Dates and grapes. These are the two that are in the thimar, and zurur is any of the grains that are like that are like could be a staple and stored. And so he says here that it's khamsatu awsuq. And so a wasq is the singular one of this, and a single wasq is sittun sa'a. So it's 60 sa'a, which is the sa'a is that measurement, which is like 0.2 gallons. Or if you were to put it into, I believe, so he said it's like 0.2, or a sa'a, is 4 mud. It's 4 amdad. So it's 4 mud, and each mud is 0.2 gallons. And so a sa' is 0.8 gallons. So that's 4. And so this is one of them. So if we have 16 times, or 60 times 5, which he said khamsatu awsuq, which is 5 of these 60 sa', that gives us 300 sa'. And this is a volumetric measurement. So that would be, if you do the math with that in gallons, then it would be, it's here, it would be 240 gallons. So 240 gallons, this is like, if you had like, you'll see that it's almost like a bed of a pickup truck, like a small bed of a pickup truck. Or in liters, that would be like 908.5 liters. And so like this is the actual, like the volume. If any of the fruit or the zurur, which is like any of the crops and whatnot that have zakat in them, if they reach this amount, then in that case they have zakat that is due upon them. That's the nisab for it. And if you were to look at it in weight, which normally is what it is, it's about like the muhakkak here, he says that it would be like 750 kilos. So 750 kilos, and that's like it's like 0.83 tons, or it would be like 1,660 pounds. So this is like roughly about what it would be about when someone looks at that. And of course, anything that goes above it, then it would have that certain portion taken out of it. And he says here, وَنِصَابُ الزُّرُوعِ وَالثِّمَارِ خَمْسَةُ أَوْسُقٍ وهي 1,600 رطل بالعراقي فيما زال بحسابه. And so he says here that the nisab for this is going to be the khamsatu awsuq. And this comes from the hadith of what the Prophet ﷺ talked about. And he said, لَيْسَ فِيمَا دُونَ خَمْسَةِ أَوْسُقٍ مِنَ التَّمْرِ صَدَقَةٍ. So like anything that's less than لَيْسَ فِيمَا دُونَ خَمْسَةِ أَوْسُقٍ مِنَ التَّمْرِ صَدَقَةٍ. And of course, like, so anything under that is not going to have the zakat. And zakat occasion will come as sadaqah in like nusus shariah. And so so he says there, and also he says 1,000 وستمائة رطل بالعراقي. And the ritl is a certain type of measurement that was known at the time of like the author when he was writing this. And this is something you'll find in the books of like the Fiqh. You'll find that they refer to the ritl, and then they'll also specify what is it, Baghdadi or Iraqi, and they'll have like different measurements and whatnot. And this is actually a weight measurement. The ritl is a weight measurement. So of course the asl for this is volumetric. And so the weight is something that is like a branch off of that. So you're getting two different you're getting like a translation into a weight. And of course this is another type of weight. So it's best for us to go back to the actual translation to the volume, and then we can translate it for ourselves to weight if we need to. Like take a certain amount of volume and see how much is this going to be, and then go off of that. If you can't do the whole volume all the way. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And so it says وَفِيمَا زَادَ بِحِسَابِهِ, and then whatever goes over that, everything is going to be according to that certain amount. And so he says here, what's that amount? He says وَفِيهَا إِنْ سُقِيَتْ بِمَاءِ السَّمَاءِ أَوْ سَيْحِ الْعُشُرِ. And so he says here, in it, or like what is required of this is the ushur, which is a tenth, if with the condition, of course, in suqiyat bima is-sama. So if it's rainwater, like if this is watered by the rain, or he says wasayh, which is like the water that comes down from the mountains and whatnot. So any type of water that comes to it, and the basic principle of this, there was no effort that went into the watering of this from the actual humans. Like we didn't do effort to bring this water here. The water came by itself, and it was a blessing from Allah. Then it's going to be 1/10 of it goes out in sadaqah or in zakat, afwan. And so this is that basis here is because there's not that effort going into it. And the same thing if someone puts canals, and there's no motors or pumping involved, but rather they have canals to a creek. And so then they just open up the canals to the creek, and then it comes in. Yes, they dug the canal, but after that, there's nothing they're doing. They're just opening something. Like this is not work to get the water there. And so in this case, it would come into the tenth if they're not doing any actual labor or actually putting an effort to bring it there. Then he says, وَإِن سُقِيَتْ. So what if they put effort? وَإِن سُقِيَتْ بِدُولَابٍ أَوْ نَضْحٍ نِصْفُ الْعُشْرِ. And if it's watered, dulab, which is like with some type of like having actual like watering machine, or whether this is with like animals at the time, or with people that use actual like they're actually going into a well and pulling up the water and then watering the place. This is actual work that they're putting into this. Or even like if they have a pump nowadays, we would say like a pump still falls into that category of putting work, because you're paying for the gas for that pump, and you have to pay for the pump and the upkeep of the pump. So if it's watered in this way, like artificial watering with which is like artificial irrigation and whatnot, then in this case there will only be half of that, which a half of ushur, nisful ushur, is like 5%. So you have either 10%. This is if it came with water without work, and then if it came with water that we did work for, then in this case it would be that 5% that is due from it in zakah. And so that's the basis for the nisab for crops and fruit. We can and so that's what he brings in here. And and if you remember the example that we had when we talked about FEMA, we had the two different hadiths that seemed to be conflicting. We had one laysa FEMA duna khamsati awsik sadaqa, and so we had this anything that's over that, and FEMA suqiyat min as-sama' al-ushur. So we had like these two things, which is and then we also had the khas. So this is basically the place that it comes in when it comes into the when we're actually using this. So we'd say yes, anything that's less than 5 is gonna anything that's less than 5 awsuq, then this of course doesn't have any sadaqah, and anything that is watered from the sky that is watered in a major way, then this would have the 10th in it. Allah Ta'ala. So is there any questions about this before we move on to the next one? Or anything unclear? All right. So he says, Rahimahullah, فصل وتقوم عروض التجارة عند آخر الحول بما اشتريت به ويخرج من ذلك ربع العشر. And so he says here, tuqawwam, and taqweem is basically doing an inventory and like seeing an assessment of the prices or the worth of this stuff, of the actual items that he has. So he would do like an inventory and see the worth of these items in the akhir al-hawl, at the end of the year. So we'd take an inventory and see how much did he put into this, into the things that he has, to see if this bima shturiyat bi. So we'd see how much did he pay for these items. Like he's trading. So how much did he pay for these items, and then he would take that inventory. And then he says, وَيُخْرَجُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ رُبُعُ الْعُشْرِ. So if it goes over the nisab, then he would have to pay the rubu' al-ushr, which is a quarter of a tenth, which is 2.5%, same as the mal for currency and whatnot. And so this is the basis with the urud al-tijara, and someone will need to do this at the end of the year. And as I mentioned before, this year, in the middle of the year, we don't look at this. We only look at the beginning of when the tijara happened, and the end of that year, we see that you make the nisab. And if he made the nisab at the end of it, then it's going to be obligatory for him to do that.
Is the nisab the same shurna mithqal?
And this is it's shurna mithqal. Yeah. But he says here, bima shturiyat bi. So if he paid it with dirham, then he would look at that. So if he paid it with dirham is so if he paid it with dirham, or he paid it with fidda, which is dirham is fidda, and it's like silver. If he paid it with silver, he would look at the currency that he paid it for, and this is what he deals with. And then he would also look at the same thing if he paid it with dinar, which is like gold, then he would look at that currency. Or if he paid it with euros, he would look at how much is this in euros and how much is this in dollars, and he would look at these currencies individually, each one with their with the respective nature. So that depends on what currency he bought it in. He would look at how much that currency is, and then he would translate it to what it be in gold. Yeah, unless it was silver, of course, then you keep it there. And so the next thing he's going to go into, he says, وَمَا اسْتُخْرِجَ مِنْ مَعَادِنِ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ يُخْرَجُ مِنْهُ رُبُعُ الْعُشْرِ فِي الْحَالِ. And so this is going to talk about the ma'adin. Ma'adin is from the mines. So if you have a gold or silver mine, is there anything upon this? Or if someone's doing, the gold, like when they get the sifting gold from the rivers and whatnot, gold panning. So if someone's doing this, when they're gathering gold and whatnot, if they get gold from out in the wild and whatnot, then upon it is rubu' al-ushr fil hal. And then this is the 2.5% right away. As soon as they got this gold, they have to give out that amount. Of course, if they're in the middle of a mining operation, then at the end of their mining operation, they can calculate, okay, did I have enough for the nisab? And then if they made that nisab, which is the same amount as which we mentioned before for their gold and silver, then if they reach this nisab, they have to give that forth, and they don't wait for a year to pass on it. No, they give it right away. So as soon as the operation is done, they give out their gold at the end of it, that 2.5% in zakah. And so there's also another thing that is similar to this, which is rikaz. And so rikaz is the buried treasure, or like buried treasure that is the pre-Islamic buried treasure. And this is the next thing he's going to say here. وَمَا يُوجَدُ مِنَ الرِّكَازِ فَفِيهِ الْخُمُسِ. And whatever is found from the rikaz, which is that pre-Islamic buried treasure, and of course, someone who gets treasure, they can look at the signs of, like if you find treasure, and in it is a coin that dates back to the Umawi, Khilafat al-Umawi. And so you can tell where's this coin from. So if you find something that's in the Islamic time, then it goes back to whatever that person is, that land was belonged to who. Then you go back and track back that person and see what that land belongs. And that's the finders, that goes into ahkam and luqat, which is like if somebody loses something, that goes back to the original owner, and this will come at the end of the mu'amalats, like these bab, and so that would go into that thing. But if it came before Islamic times, then in this case it would take the ruling of rikaz, and rikaz is that pre-Islamic buried treasure. So we would have to give out a fifth of it in the zakah. So 1/5 of that treasure goes out in zakah. And of course, like the treasure is something, if we find it, then this is like we didn't necessarily do a huge thing for this. Like we found someone else's treasure. Yarhamakallah. And so this would get a fifth. And so this is the basic, all of the nisab for this, and also the time that we would pay this out. This would also be paid right away as well. We're not waiting for a year to pass on this urikaz, but rather it'd be paid right away. It would be the fifth. And so the next thing, and of course the Muslims, if it's from a Muslim period or a Muslim time period, or it could be to a Muslim, or it's after the time of Islam, then in this case it would go back to its original owner. So we'd always go back to its original owner, especially if it's like in a Muslim country and whatnot. And so if you don't know, then it would go into the other ahkam of like the person who lost something. Would go into that ahkam. And that will come up later, inshallah. So now he's going to talk about another type of zakat, and then this type of zakat is different than the other ones. It's still zakat, but it's zakatul fitr. And a lot of people, they forget about it, or this like the zakatul fitr is also zakat, but it's not of the same type. It's not zakatul mal. We have zakatul mal, which is that first one, and zakatul fitr is a different one. And this one, of course, a lot more of us will actually be paying it. And so he says here, فَصْلٌ وَتَجِبُ زَكَاةُ الْفِطْرِ بِثَلَاثَةِ أَشْيَاء. And so he says that zakatul fitr is obligatory with 3 things. And of course, before he talked about like 5 things or 6 things, depending on the type of mal before. But here it says 3 things. And the first one is that Islam, that it's that the person's Muslim, of course. And then بِغُرُوبِ الشَّمْسِ مِنْ آخِرِ يَوْمٍ مِنْ شَهْرِ رَمَضَانِ. And so like from once the last Maghrib comes in, and the last day of Ramadan, then it becomes obligatory, zakat al-fitr becomes obligatory. And then also with the condition of that first one, and then also وَوُجُودِ الْفَضْلِ وَوُجُودُ الْفَضْلِ عَنْ قُوتِهِ وَقُوتِ عِيَالِهِ فِي ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. And so, and also that he has, in the wujud, that he can find fadl is something extra, and the qutihi, like the amount of food that, like the staple food that he can live off of for that day. And also, because he says fi dhalika al-yawm, on that day, and also for his family, like that he has the food for him and iyalihi, like the people that go back to him and rely upon him, that are his dependents. He has food for him and his family on that day. And so in this case, and then zakat al-fitr is obligatory on every single person that is Muslim and during this time. And he says, here he doesn't say balugh, he doesn't say all these things, but rather we'll see who is that, who's going to pay for like a baby. A baby has zakat al-fitr on it. Of course, like the baby doesn't pay. This is the person who is supposed to pay for his needs is the one who pays on behalf of him. And so, and this is zakat al-fitr, and this is at the end of Ramadan. Of course, the first day after Ramadan we have Eid, and this is when that zakat al-fitr should go out before the Eid prayer. And so he says here, وَيُزَكِّي عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. So he pays zakat on his nafs for himself. Like yuzakki means he pays zakat for himself. وَعَمَّنْ تَلْزَمُهُ نَفَقَتُهُ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And also for the ones he pays for himself, and he pays for the ones who he is obliged to pay for from the Muslimin. So if this person has a mother that is poor and she relies on him financially, he pays her zakat al-fitr as well. If he has kids, all of his zakat al-fitr for his kids, he pays it. If he has a wife, he pays it for his wife. He pays it for all of his kids, and he pays it for his, say he has other people from the extended family that are dependent on him financially that he has to pay for, or like that he has to provide for, such as like maybe it's a grandma. And that he's the only one that's there, and he's got to pay for his grandma. Like he has to pay her nafaqah, which we'll talk about this bab in the future as well. But anyone who he has to pay for or provide for, then in this case he also needs to provide for their zakat al-fitr. And of course, they are the ones, it gets paid for them, of course, but he's the one who it's obligatory for him to pay, the provider. And so this is that, and he also said min al-muslimin. So of course, if somebody has maybe they have like a mother that they're taking care of, but she's not Muslim. So in this case, even though he has to take care of her, and but she's not Muslim, so she doesn't have any zakat al-fitr on her. And that's and so anyone, and also this would go for like slaves and whatnot, anyone else that is dependent on that person of course humans. And so then it says here, wasa'an min quti balidihi. And so this is the amount that he pays. How much does he pay? Yuzakki sa'an min quti balidihi. And this is, he pays 1 sa', which is, a sa' is for amdad. So we have mud, like the plural of mud is amdad. And so then you have 4 of these, and 4 of these equals 1 sa'. And the sa' is approximately, it's 0.8 gallons, or 2.8 cups. So this is 1 sa' that he pays from qut baladihi. And the madhab of Shafi'i is this needs to be the actual qut. It needs to be actual food. And also if we look at the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, when he talks about this, you can see that the meaning of this is that they're feeding people on the day of fitr. Like that we're going about and we're celebrating at the end of Ramadan, and at the end of the Ramadan us to give the poor people actual food. So we give them actual food, and this is what should be done. And of course, this is the view of the Shafi'i madhab, and this is this is like the strongest of the opinions. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Some people say you can give out the money, but of course, if you want to be on the safe side, you give out the food, and you know that you did what Allah told you to do, in the way that Allah told you to do it.
What is min baladi?
Min baladihi, from his. So say someone's from a place where they don't even eat rice. You wouldn't give rice out on that day. You would look at the culture of that place. What is their staple food? And you give it in their staple food. And so like the same thing, if someone doesn't even know what like oats are, you wouldn't give them out oats on that day. Like some people, they don't know how to make oats, anything with oats. They don't know what this is. So of course it needs to be from that balad, like from that place where he lives in. It needs to be in that what they use as a staple food. And it needs to be also, it says qut here, this should also be unprocessed. So it shouldn't be any process, and the reason for this is for that person to do whatever he wants with it. So if you give him something that's processed, so you give him actual food, like you cook that rice for him, you give it to him. Maybe he already ate. So what good is this rice and that's cooked and he already ate? So like this needs to be actual, like the grain format, raw format. He does whatever he wants with it. He wants to sell it. That's his business. But this is for him to decide what he wants to do. Even like pastas and whatnot. This is something that like in the Shafi'i madhab, no, it shouldn't be pastas and it shouldn't be flour. It should be actual like grains in its original format. Of course, you can say if someone was to give people like wheat grains, a lot of times maybe people don't know what to do with this. So there's something to look into in that. But when it comes to like rice, it's easy to do. Everyone knows how to cook rice. Most of the places I know, like this would suffice. And he also says, وَقَدْرُ خَمْسَةُ أَرْطَالٍ وَثُلُثٌ bil-Iraqi. So he also gives like the amount that this would be for how much this would equate to when it comes to how much is a sa'. So he gives the amount of a sa' here and ratl. And this is what some people say it's like 2,400 grams. That's what the Muhakkik here says, 2,400 grams. But this is it's a little less than a gallon. It's the 0.8 gallons. So if you have a gallon jug, and you can figure out what is 2.8 gallons, or you can figure out what is 0.8 gallons in that, and then you figured it out. And you can just make it that way. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And so the next chapter he's going to go into is going to talk about who gets the zakah. This is very important. Like we talked about what is zakah, who is it obligatory upon, and what is it obligatory, like what types of thing, and how much does it become obligatory. Now he's going to talk about who is it obligatory to pay to, like who do we give the zakah to. And so here he says, فصل تدفع الزكاة إلى الأصناف الثامنة الذين ذكرهم الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز في قوله تعالى إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. So these are the categories, these 8 categories that are mentioned in this ayah. Each one of them has these are what it's the zakah is for, these 8 categories, and only these 8 categories. As we can see, innama is of the forms of, you say uslub al-hasr, which like means that it's not for anyone outside of this. Innama, it's only for these. Innama as-sadaqat, and the sadaqat here is zakah, is for lil fuqara. So first the fuqara wal masakin, and both of these have a similar meaning, that the person is needy. The first one, fuqara, what is the difference between the faqir? He's the one who doesn't have anything, he's super poor. Like he needs things and he doesn't have anything of what he needs. He's like very, very poor, or he like has barely anything. And then there's the masakin, which is like the plural of miskin, and he's the person who has some of what he needs, but he doesn't have all of it. He's lacking. Like he definitely has other things that need to be taken care of, but he doesn't have all of it. So he can do some of it, but he doesn't have all of what he needs. And also the person who's poor, this is a person who also isn't able to make those means. So say somebody, he's a say he's like a website developer, and he can make a fortune really quick. And at the current moment, he just has all of his money. He just blew it all. But he has the ability to get online and pick up a job really quickly. There's nothing stopping him. He can get a job and get his money right away. He's not faqir, even if he doesn't have any money in the bank, because he has the ability to have that. And so he's not faqir, and he's also not masakin, unless like if he did his job, then he's still under it. Then in that case, maybe he'd fall into that. But this is the person who is actually poor, like he doesn't have anything, and also that he's poor in a sense that he can't get what he needs to, whether it's because there's layoffs and whatnot, and there's no way for him to get a job and all this other things. But for the person who is able to make that money that takes him out of that bracket of being faqir or miskin, and he would say he has the ruling of being ghani. So he's either ghani bi'fa'l, or is like which he's able to do that, or there's like the reality of the situation, he doesn't have anything, so I mean that he does have something, because of course he's ghani. So the person either has the money or he has the ability to make the money in any time. So both of these people are ghani. And so this is, he says, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ, Allah says, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ, that's the first one, the very poor people, وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, these are the people that are missing some of what they need. They need more than they have, but they're the masakin. And then he says, وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا, وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا, the people that collect the sadaqah, and that they gather the people together. This will, of course, as I mentioned before, this is something that comes by the khilafah would send out people that would do this. When the Bayt al-Mal was together, they would have someone who's a government appointed person that would go out and collect the zakah, and these people that work on it, they get a portion from it. So they get a portion for their services that they did. The amilina alayha, as opposed to the what are these muassasat al-khairiyah, like these like charity organizations, they would take the ruling of a wakil, which is someone that does something on your behalf, not as if they are working. You're not paying. If they need payment, then they don't take it from the sadaqah. Like they don't actually take it from the zakah. They would say, we need a payment to distribute your sadaqah, so this is something else that you would have to pay. Like to distribute your zakah, we need a payment for this, and they can do that. If they need to cover costs for themselves, and they do that, but it can't be taken from the actual zakah itself. And that's something that should be understood. And also, وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ, and وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُم. Anyone know the i'rab here? قُلُوبُهُم.
قُلُوبُهُم. Is the qulub causing the ul?
This is ism maf'ul, or you'd say like the na'ib fa'il للمؤلفة مرفوع بمؤلفة. So this is the ones who their hearts are, and they're being put like mu'allaf is like someone who like is put together, or they're like consoled, or they're given extra attention and care. So like the mu'allafati qulubuhum, this is like the ism, or like be na'ib fa'il like mu'allafati. And so this is the ones that have weak Islam. Like the description of them is that these are people that are either new to Islam, and they have weak niyyah, or like you're scared that maybe this person is going to fall out of Islam. Someone who's new in Islam, they kind of need like extra help, from the community and whatnot. And someone giving to this person it's a huge thing. Like for someone who's new to Islam, and they come into Islam, and then they see the givingness of the people around them. Maybe this person is poor, and someone comes and gives them, like, they just pay for everything that they need, or like gives them a huge portion of money to get food and whatnot. Of course, this does something for that person, and it strengthens their iman and helps them with these things. Or it can be for someone who's new, and when people give to this person, he's a new Muslim, and he holds a high rank in like his community. So the people that see, and the other people around him that see, oh, he just got a bunch of money when he got Muslim, this is a reason for them to think good about Islam, and possibly let them come into Islam as well. So this is of the categories here. وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُم. This is for these people to strengthen their iman and make sure that they are firm in Islam, and it helps them out in that case. And this is assuming, of course, if they were from the other categories and they're also from this category, of course they would even be more important for them to get it. But this is a great thing for people. And this can also occasionally it will be used to to make, like, if there's a peace treaty that needs to happen because like a Muslim nation is like weak or something, and the people around them are going to attack them if they don't give them a certain like a certain amount of money to keep them at bay, then this is something that possibly can fall into this thing, as long as this is this is reasonable and whatnot. And of course that goes back to the people in charge and the ulama to decide that. But these are the mu'allafati qulubuhum. These are the categories in general for the new Muslims that need extra like tathbit, or like, and they need extra like strengthening in their deen. And of course, the Prophet ﷺ, he used to do this for a lot of the new Muslims that came into Islam. He would give them a lot of like, when he came upon a lot of wealth, he would give and give and give. And of them, of the people that he gave to, he was like of the chief of some of the tribes, and he's like, become Muslim. He's like, Aslimu, because Muhammad ﷺ, he doesn't fear, he gives, and he doesn't fear poor, like being poor. All right, he doesn't fear poverty. He gives in a huge way, and told them to become Muslim. Of course, this is of course, for someone who's weak in Islam, this helps. Of course, for a person strong that's strong in Islam, they don't need this. And this could actually be a problem for someone who's already established if they're constantly looking for more money and whatnot. But for someone who's weak in Islam, this is something that's very helpful for them. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So these are the first, we have the fuqara, we have masakin, wal-amilina alayha, wal-mu'allafati qulubuhum. And so these are the first four. And then he says, wafir riqab. And this is also for the freeing of slaves. And so if you have a bunch of slaves that have done the mukataba, this will come at the end, but they basically ask for their freedom. The mukataba is they ask for their freedom, and their owner gives them a way to gain their freedom. He says, you're going to pay this amount of money every single month for the next 3 months, and then at the end, or like however many months he says, they agree on a payment plan, and every single month he pays this payment, and then he gains his freedom. So this wafir riqab, this would go towards those people who have that like planned freedom. They're like be called mukatab. It goes for them to gain their freedom. So it help them out with the price that they need to pay. And so this is one of the things. Of course, we'll see that Islam is constantly looking at freeing slaves. Like, of course, it didn't go with the demolition of slavery altogether, because it gave it like this goes against like what humanity itself has had this, but rather it put actual guidelines for this. So like, how does it happen and when does it happen? And it also pointed a big open door towards the freeing of slaves. So this is something that you can see that this is Islam is good for all times and places. It's not something that is only good for some times and some places, but rather we see that it looked at the reality of the situation, such as like slavery, or looking at multiple wives. It gave dawabit, like it gave like actual guidelines and rulings. How do you deal with all these things? And of course, they all have rulings that are very fair and equitable. And of the things that zakah would go to is freeing the slaves that have that.
Is it only the mukatab?
Yeah. For the ones who have they would be the mukatabin, which are the people who have that agreement gone about the freeing. Of course, we don't free slaves without the owner's permission. Like, that's his property. Okay. So like, you're not gonna. But if he agreed to a certain price that this needs to be paid, then paying that price for that person, great. Okay. And so also he says here that. So that's the and that wafir riqab, and I saw a translation of this in Muhsin Ali Khan. He said freeing captives, and like captives, like not necessarily the best translation here. It should be like mukatabin, because captives is a bad translation.
Would the nas from would the nas override like, because you know how the zakat aslan, it's from the matter of the person, not because it's theirs, but because khalas, now it's for the fuqara. Like that 2.5% is it's not theirs anyways. It's the
And it's their ruling. Even though yes, they have a right to this money, but what is the actual money that they have? This is do you mean like as if like going to pay the?
No, I mean that when it comes to zakah, that person, it's no longer seen as that person's right. It's seen as the people.
That money itself.
The mal, the wealth.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a grain or whatever. It would be no longer viewed as that person's. It's now the fuqara's.
Yes, but this is the way that we look at it. We say this is musha'. Like this is milk musha', which is like musha', which is spread across the thing. It's غير معين. So it's not stuck on an actual thing. So you're not going to say this portion is his. We'd say there's a percentage of all of your property that is this person's. And like that's owed to the fuqara. A percentage of your property that's owed to the fuqara. And if you do anything, so say he sells all of his money. He sold some of the fuqara's money.
Right.
And so it's his debt that he has to pay back, from this. But it's not muayyan. And this is something that is like you'll go into it in the later books, of course, like Minhaj will talk about it, and some of the things that are connected with that. Yeah.
That would be the problem. The ta'yin would be the problem.
The ta'yin is not. There's no ta'yin in it. It's something that is like it's like an ownership that is غير معين. So it's not specific. It's not specific. You're not going to say these cows are the ones that have to be that are mine. These are my cows. No, this person gets the choice to choose his cows as long as it goes with a certain amount. Like as long as it's not like a poor choice. Yeah.
So could you apply that if somebody had like let's say like 10 slaves? Would you say okay you would have to free X amount?
No, this is not. There's no zakah on the actual slaves. These are for the mukattabin, are the people that. So the zakah is not on the slaves. The slaves are use their property, but there's no zakah on the slaves. But where do we put the money of the zakah that we gathered? We go towards freeing the ones that have already had an agreement with their owners. They had the mukattabin are the ones that did this mukataba, which is that agreement. They talked to their owner, and their owner agreed that they're going to pay every single month a certain amount of money, and at the end of this payment plan, they've gained their freedom. So the zakah money comes in and pays off that for the actual slave.
But that qaid is from external to the nusus, correct?
No, like this is wafir riqab. This is for the mukatabi.
No, but that mukatib, the qaid for the condition
for him to be mukatib. And this is the tafsir that comes when it comes to wafir riqab.
There's no nas on it.
It's I would say like the nas. I'd have to look into exactly, but I'm pretty sure that I don't know of a difference of opinion in it. It could possibly be ijma. Wallahu ta'ala. And so this is wafir riqab. So this is the freeing of the mukatibin, the slaves that are mukatib. And also he says here if you look at the hamish, you'll say riqab mukatabun wa tahrir al-ibi. And so like freeing them. And so wal gharimin, and al gharimin, this is for the person that owes money. So he has a debt out there, he has an outstanding debt that he needs to pay. That debt came up time that he needs to pay that debt is overdue. And so he owes money to somebody. So this is the part where the zakat can be put to paying off someone else's debt. This is one of them. This is one of these categories that it should be paid for to pay off the other people's debt. And of course, this is a beautiful thing to help relieve the stress on people. And also, so this is of them so they go for the gharimin, which are the people that have debts on them. And so you would give them the money to pay off their debt, and they should pay off their debt with that money. But you would give it to the person that owes the debt, and you give them the money, and they would go off and pay their debt. Right. And they're entrusted with that. And so then also he says, وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, this term is almost always, when it comes to the nusus of shariah, this is almost always referring to jihad. And here it is referring to jihad. For the people that go out into jihad of their own, they don't get a stipend from the government. They're not a paid army member. No, they go out from tatawwa. Like they go out for their own selves to go out and wage jihad from their own wealth. They pay for their own expenses. They're going out there, and in this case, they would be eligible for zakah. In this case, if they go out there and do that, and this is for mujahideen that go out there.
That's gharibin, sir?
That's the al-gharimin. This is for the people who owe debts. All right. And wafi sabilillah. This is the seventh one. This is for the people that go and wage war in the path of Allah. And then it says wabn sabil. Wabn sabil. Ibn sabil is the person who has been cut off from his wealth in his hometown, or he's a traveler in a foreign land, and he doesn't have access to any wealth. And so it's as if, even if he is wealthy, and back home he's got properties, he's got cars, he's got all kinds of stuff, but now he's out on the road, he's broken, he doesn't have any credit card to get used to get anything from that. He can't have somebody send him money, Western Union or whatever. But like in that time, of course, there was none of this. Like now, maybe this person is harder to find, but if someone was stuck on the road and they needed to get somewhere, this is a person that's eligible for zakat as Ibn Sabil. Like he's not at his home town or whatnot, and even if he is rich back home, we're not looking at this. We're looking at this person needs money to get back home. So we give them Ibn Sabil. He's like the son of the street, but or like the way. And so like this person, he gets the money he needs so he can go back home. This is of these categories, and of the things that we'll look at. He will give a couple points that's specific to like the Shafi'i madhab here. He says, وَلِمَنْ يُوجَدْ مِنْهُمْ وَإِلَى مَنْ يُوجَدْ مِنْهُمْ وَلَا يَقْتَصِرُ عَلَى أَقَلِّ مِنْ ثَلَاثَةٍ مِنْ كُلِّ صِنْفٍ إِلَّا الْعَامِلَ. And so here he says here that this is given to the ones who are found from this category. So he says that you give the zakah to these 8 categories. For whoever is found from these 8 categories. Say you don't have anyone who is, of course we don't have any mukatabin. Like there's no mukatab that we can go give our money. So this group drops down and we look at the other 7 groups. And if we don't find any from that group, then we drop it down and we go to the other groups that are available from these people. And it should be, like the view of the Shafi'i madhab, it should be to every single group of these that is available, every single group gets a cut. And also he says here, وَلَا يَقْتَصِرُ, which means like that he doesn't stop or he doesn't limit himself على أقل من ثلاثة من كل صنف. So every single category gets something, and there should be none less than 3 that from each category that he gives to at least 3 people for each category. This is he can divide it up however he wants, like the amount for people. If he knows this person's really needy, he's going to take a bit more, but he needs to make sure he covered all of these categories. And this is from the uloom. Like this is a certain thing it's a tricky area with uloom, because we have إنما الصدقات للفقراء, and this is a plural. Fuqara is plural, and a plural doesn't. How many is the least amount of a plural that it could be? 3. This is generally we look at 3 is the least amount that a plural will go on, and wal masakin, so it needs to be 3. And so it's stuck to each one of these categories, so it's limited to all these categories. And the Shafi'i opinion is that he looks at this and he pulls out that this is for every single one of them. You need to catch every single one of these categories that exists. And so you need to make sure that you get to 3 of them, at least 3 from every single category, with the exception of the amil. He made the exception of the amil, like the person who does this, because of course you could have one person who does all of the collecting and giving out, and of course you don't need to go find more than one person that does that. And so it would only be like 1. If there's a amil that does this, then this person would be 1, and that's okay to do less than, he's getting less than, there's less than 3 people that he paid out for each one of these, but it needs to be 3 people for each category. And so he says, وَخَمْسَةٌ لَا يَجُوزُ دَفْعُهَا إِلَيْهِمْ. So he says there are 5 people it's not permissible to give the money to. Now the first one, al-ghani bimalin aw kasabin. And so, or kasban. And so like the ghani, this is the person who is, of course he's rich. Bimal, as I mentioned before, he's rich with his actual money. He's got money. Or kasb, which he has the ability to make the money at any moment. Like he can go out there and make the money if he wants. But if he's just being lazy, then he's still rich. He doesn't get this money because he's able to make this money in a short period of time. Like he's got the ability to have this money. And so this person is ghani, either by mal, like by actual money that he has, or by the ability to make the money right away. Nothing's stopping him from that. And this comes from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تحل الصدقة لغني ولا لذي مرة سوي. And so this is that's not permissible. The first part of it, لا يحل الصدقة لغني. and if you want to do like a little exercise, where's the here? There's a siga to the umum. Can anyone find this in the first sentence? لا تحل الصدقة.
Oh, is it the
لغني.
the umum after the nahi? لغني.
What's the first one? And so we'll just look at لا تحل الصدقة لغني.
The تعريف آلة التعريف ألف لام.
In
الصدقة.
Yeah. So this is al and ism jins. Alright, so any of the sadaqah is not permissible for that. And also there's another one. And we got this. I think you're coming close to it. You got another one? Lighani. And how? First word? There you are. Yeah. Because lighaniyin, yeah, this is a nakira fi siyaq al-nafi. And so, and then it also says wala lidhi mirratin sawi. And mirra is like quwwa, as he says here, like strength, or qudra, like the ability to do something. He's got a strong back. He can do whatever he needs to do to get his own work. And so, of course, this is not permissible to give to them. And so this is the first one he says of the 5 that's impermissible to give to is al-ghani. And then the second one, wal abdu. And the reason the abd doesn't get any money is because he is money. He like any money that he gets goes to his owner. He doesn't own anything. And he is owned. So of course, like, we don't give money to someone who doesn't, like, he doesn't receive money in essence. It always goes to his owner. So of course he doesn't get money. Like the abd itself that wouldn't get money, because he is money. And the Shafi'i view when it comes to abd is he doesn't own anything. He doesn't own. He is owned. And all of his stuff belongs to his to his owner. And maybe stuff like follows him around, but it's not his property. So he doesn't get given money, rather that money gets given on his behalf to his owner or something of that sort. And of course that's not for the sadaqah here. And he also says وَبَنُو هَاشِمْ وَبَنُو مُطَّلِبْ. And this is the Prophet ﷺ. He says, إِنَّ هَذِهِ الصَّدَقَاتِ إِنَّمَا هِيَ أَوْسَاخُ النَّاسِ. That the Prophet ﷺ said that this sadaqah, the zakat, is the filthiness. Awsakh is like it's like the filthiness of nas. Of course, like things that are given out to other people, this is something that is like the person who's receiving it is on the low end of the spectrum, as opposed to the person who's giving it. The person who's giving it is on the high end, and the person who's receiving it is receiving the dirtiness, or like what is purifying. So if you have someone who's purifying the thing he's giving away, that he's purifying his own money with, this is the thing that is not like the clean thing. So he says, إنما هذه الصدقات إنما هي أوساخ الناس. إن هذه الصدقات إنما هي أوساخ الناس وإنها لا تحل لمحمد ولا لآل محمد. And so that the Prophet ﷺ said that it's not permissible, لا يحل لمحمد, and like for himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ولا لآل Muhammad, and not for his family. Like Ali here, Al here, it means like his family. And so this would go, and the Shafi'i view is that this goes for Banu Hashim, anyone from the tribe of Banu Hashim, or Banu Muttalib. So like these two categories, like anyone who's from these two like tribes, they would not receive zakah. And like some of the wisdom behind that is also they get a portion of the whenever you have like fate that is given up from like the war, like the spoils of war and whatnot, there's a certain or like if they get something without like warfare and whatnot, there's a certain part of that that's given strictly for them. So if there's jihad going on, they have a certain portion that other people don't have. So this is the kind of like the wisdom behind that, and also because of the prestige of them, they're never put in a place where they're receiving the zakah, and because this is like a lowly position. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And so this is the view of the Shafi'i madhab, that not under any circumstances do they get this. Some people have said they can get it if because the fate is not being given to them, and there's no jihad that's giving them that fifth that they're entitled to. There's nothing that's giving them. Then this is like the replacement of that. But that goes against like the madhab of Shafi'i. And also the zahir text is like the zahir nas is that this is not for them. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And he also says, well, the kafiru. So the kafir never gets it. under any circumstances. This is for, and this is for like the zakat is something that's given for the actual Muslims, and this is from what the Prophet ﷺ says, and it's also it's narrated in Sahih Muslim that he said تُؤْخَذْ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ فَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ. So it's taken from the rich and given to فُقَرَائِهِمْ. Who's him? Like this Muslimin, yeah. And so this goes to the actual Muslimin. So you don't give out the zakat to a poor kafir. This is not something that's done. It only is given to actual Muslimin. And they're not eligible for zakat. Yes, you can give them sadaqah if you want, like no problem with that, and open their hearts up to Islam. But of course, giving them the actual zakat, this is haram. And so he also says, وَمَنْ تَلْزَمُ الْمُزَكِّيَ نَفَقَتُهُ لَا يَدْفَعُهَا إِلَيْهِمْ بِاسْمِ الْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينِ. So say you have a wife that's very poor, and your wife is poor, and you want to give her your zakat. No. You already are supposed to provide for her. You're the person that provides for her. You're not going to give her zakat on top of this. You give zakat to the people that are outside of the people you're already supposed to do. Just like if we're supposed to pray, if we're supposed to make up, or if we're supposed to pray Salat Zuhr, you know, and I have something I need to make up as well. I need to make up a old Salat Dhuhr. I can't combine these two niyyah in one thing. That one has a niyyah and this one has a niyyah. So I can't put both these in the same thing. I'm already supposed to pay her money. If she's poor, I'm already supposed to be like doing nafaqah. So how am I going to accomplish two wajibs with one thing? So you can't do two wajibs with one thing. The one wajib needs to go to someone who is different than your wife. In this case, or wife or kids, or if someone else who you're supposed to already gives the nafaqah, which is like they're supposed to support, you can't give them that. And so of course, like sometimes like extended family members, maybe this can happen because they're extended. They're not of like the ones that you're actually like obliged to do, like a very distant, cousin, like a second or third cousin or somebody. You're not if you're not obliged to pay for them or give them things in this case, then it's okay to give them the zakat. But if you're obliged to provide for them, then no, it's not okay to do that. You can't do two on the same thing. All right. And with that, this concludes the whole chapter of the kitab, and kitab of zakah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Questions?
Do you take the zakat from like an orphanage?
Like for the orphanage.
Is it for the orphanage? Do they fall under like?
If they're poor, yeah, you can give their zakat to the orphans if they're poor. They would fall under like the fuqara and masakin. Yeah. So yeah, orphanage can be a part of it. But of course, like the method of Shafi'i, you need to make sure you catch all of the groups. So, and you don't have to give the same amount to everyone. And when you give to all of the groups, you could just give a couple. You can give like it needs to be an amount that is considered money. You can't just give them like 3 cents because you can't buy anything with this. It needs to actually be an amount that someone can do something with. You know, but it needs to be, so you'd give this out to every single one of these groups, but you can choose what you think is the most important and give the most money to that, but you need to spread it. That's the important thing. Wallahu ta'ala.
What if all these categories exist where somebody lives, but they send zakat to a different country?
It's supposed to be, if you remember the hadith, here that he says, تُؤْخَذْ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ فَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ. And this was given, so it's these people. From their wealthy to their fuqara. So like the giving of out and bringing it outside. This is of course it's an area of difference of opinion, but of course the basis is that it comes with the people around them. If there are poor and needy people around them and people that are in debt, they should be paying for these people first and foremost, before they're sending their money over to Uganda or any of the other places that have poor people. And yes, of course we know their money goes very far. You know, of course, we know money goes far, but the people that are around you, they have a right. You know, do you accomplish their rights? You know, these people that are closest always have the most rights upon a person. The people that are closest to home, these are the ones that have a greater right than the people that are around the world that also are needy. Yeah. Wallahu ta'ala. Any other things? Inshallah, the next chapter we'll be going into Siyam. And let me see what time it is. If you want to start up with Siyam, we can, or we can hold it on to another day, whatever you guys want.
You start.
You know? All right. We'll probably just we'll just give a quick introduction to it, and then we'll talk about some of the things that break it, and then we'll stop there, inshallah. So the author here, rahimahullah, he says Kitab Siyam, and so this is of course, of the last. We have two more that are left: is Siyam and also Hajj. So these are the last ones that are going to be. And of course, we're going into Siyam pretty soon. So this is definitely something we need to learn before Ramadan. And of course, having it this time is great that we're learning it right now beforehand. And a lot of times, some of the shuyukh, when something happens, or when there's the before Ramadan, sometimes we'll actually take Kitab al-Siyam before Ramadan just because of the munasabah, that it's appropriate to take this at this time. And so and alhamdulillah, we reach this time at this time. And so he says, وَشَرَائِتُ وُجُوبِ الصِّيَامِ ثَلَاثَةُ أَشْيَاء. So he says that the conditions for it to become obligatory, there's three things: al-Islam, wal-bulugh, wal-aqlu. And so he gives the three things here: that Islam, of course, the person's Muslim; wal-bulugh, that he's come at the age of accountability; wal-aql, and that he has his sanity about him. And then there's a fourth one too, that he said three, and there's actually four in the nuskha that we have, and some of them it's not there. Like this last one, wal qudratu ala sawm, this is with us here, and some of the nusakh it's not there. And also the ability to fast. And of course, everything comes with the ability. If you're not able to do something, when kuntum marda aw ala safarin, fa'iddatu min ayyamin ukhar. So if you're at this part, then you would do it from another time. And he'll talk about that at the end of the chapter. And so these are the three things. Also Islam, and we talk about bulugh. Bulugh, it's the same thing as we talked about the kid. When the kid reaches 7, he should be taught the salah. Or we talked about the kid in salah. When he reaches 7, he should be taught the salah. When he's 10, he should be beaten on leaving it. If he's not praying, he should be disciplined until he prays properly. And so the same thing with a Sawm, teaching the kids about Sawm, how to fast, and making sure that when they're about 7 years old, that they're starting their fasting, even if they only do half the day or whatever, that they're with us in the Ramadan experience. And also then at 10, we should have them fasting. Of course they get a reward for it. So if they think, oh, I'm not it's not obligatory on me yet, no, they get the reward. Allah doesn't leave the reward for them, but rather they won't get if they break it for some reason, it's not like they have to make it up, or that they are going to be put to task for that. And also he says, wal aql, and this, of course, this encompasses the person who's majnoon, or the person who fainted the whole day. Someone who went into a coma, he's not, in that case, if he's in a coma, that day is not obligatory on him.
Is he real qada?
No, it's not even obligatory on him from the get-go. Yeah, he's not even addressed in that thing. And so if someone it was Majnun, he went crazy and he's done. That time he's not expected to pray, and he's also not expected to make Sawm, and he's also not expected to make it up when he comes back to his senses, if he came back.
And does this include people who do this themselves? If there's
no.
a marijuana addict or something?
Yeah, no, they have to do it. They have to make it up. If someone smoked marijuana, or they went on some crazy adventure, then at the end of that they have to make all this up, because they did this, and they're mutaddi. So the person, but if they would accidentally, say someone slipped something in their drink they didn't know, and all of a sudden boom, they're crazy. Then in this case, since he didn't do it, it's nothing upon him. He's not called to make up the day. But if he did it out of his own disobedience, then in this case, he would be in.
Does it have to reach the end of the day?
It needs to be for the day. If someone, but their Sawm would not be valid if any part of this day their mind is gone. Their Sawm is not valid. Or if they say they were in a coma, they woke up and then they fasted from the end of the day, or they intended to fast at the beginning of the day. No, if they intended to fast at the beginning of the day, then they went into the coma, then at the end of the day, the fast will no longer be obligatory on them, because they're no longer there. But on the other side, if they say they passed out during the middle of the day, and then they woke up before the end, they fasted. But they need to have woken up in the day. They need to be aware. And the same thing, people that sleep the whole day of Ramadan, this is a problem. Yeah, Allah musta'an. Besides the fact that they're missing salah, which is already a problem,
Yes.
but it's a problem on top of a problem, because they need to have actually been aware during the day.
So how about if they pass out or whatever? before Fajr, and then they wake up like after Dhuhr.
And they had the intention to fast. Saying they had the intention to fast that day, they woke up and fine. They finished their fast.
But even if they didn't, because isn't the intention wajib before Fajr?
It's at any time during the night. We'll talk about that inshallah.
Yeah, so
From the beginning of Maghrib until the time of Fajr, they need to have made the intention for that day coming. And if they didn't make that intention, then their sum is not going to be valid.
Okay. And do they still have to do it?
Yeah, and this is also, in general, the Ramadan is if somebody is obliged, even if they can't do the whole day, but they're obliged to, like, say someone is, they're traveling, and then, or they're sick. Let's say they're sick, and then they reach towards the end of the day, and they're all better. Like, they no longer have the excuse to be eating and drinking, so that goes away. They need to make up the day because that's the day they need to make it up, but also they need to stop. And the same thing, if someone broke their fast intentionally, say they broke their fast intentionally, or they forgot their niyyah, they still can't eat. They forgot their niyyah, so their fast they have to make up that day, but they can't eat the whole day. So they're because of the Ramadan in and of itself, it's haram. You know, like Ramadan has its own hurmah that is associated with that. And also he says here, وَقُدْرَةُ عَلَى الصَّوْمِ, and of course this is the ability to fast. And for the people that aren't able to fast, they have a special ruling that comes at the end that he'll talk about.
So it says, ثلاثة أشياء ولكن he mentioned 4.
Yeah, and there's a difference in the actual. Sometimes I've been reading from different copies, and there's differences in some of the copies. Some of the copies, وَقُدْرَةُ عَلَى الصَّوْمِ is not there. So that's three. And also I've tried to do some of the numberings. I'm doing like a translation of this, and some of the numberings they just don't add up. I don't know where the numberings are. There's a couple of them that are like this. And if you look at a couple of the different shuruh for it, you'll see they break it up in different ways. So, you know, this is normal with any book that comes to us from many years. Like a normal book will have things. Either it's a mistake, or whether it's just a mistake from the copier. One of them missed it, and the other one picked it up, and there'll be little changes that happen here and there. Allah Ta'ala alam. And so we'll stop here inshallah, and we'll come into the next part where we'll start up Sawm at the beginning of the pillars of Fara'id al-Sawm, Arba'atu Ashya, and we'll pick up that in the next class inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب وأمرت لأعدل بينكم الله ربنا وربكم لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم لا حجة بيننا وبينكم الله يجمع بيننا وإليه المصير